Teacher Diane Woke-Rogers was there today for the first time since 14 students and 3 colleagues were murdered. She and her fellow teachers returned to Stoneman Douglas. Wednesday night, you'll remember, she confronted the NRA spokeswoman Dana Lash at CNN's town hall. Listen.
I'm a history teacher. I ask my students to define terms for me. So I'd like you to define something for me because I've wondered about it and I want to know. What is your definition of a well-regulated militia, as stated in the Second Amendment, and using supporting detail, explain to me how Let me finish. And using supporting detail, explain to me how an 18-year-old with a military rifle is well regulated. And the world, our country, our nation is going to grade your answer.
Ms. Rogers joins us now from Parkland, Florida. Thanks so much for being with us and continuing this discussion. One part of the discussion is certainly about guns. You were having that Wednesday night. The other part of the discussion is about the law enforcement response here. And when you hear about these officers that stayed outside, did not enter the school, what goes through your mind?
Well, I'll tell you, John. You know, I tell my students whenever they write an essay and they have a point of view to make sure that they've done all the research before they put it out there. So, you know, I've been at work all day trying to get the class ready for our kids. So, you know, what I really want to address is I want to address Mr. Trump and his solution to that. And first, what I want to say is going around calling people who are mentally ill in our community psychos and lunatics, that's not going to solve the problem. That actually creates barriers so that people that we want to seek that help aren't going to give it. So for doing that, I wanted to give Mr. Trump and Dana, I want to give them a detention. And normally that's name calling, and I give my students 1 week detention for name calling, but because 25% of the Americans at some time are going to have mental health issues, I'm going to make it 2 weeks, and I want them to come after school and write letters of apologies to the people in America.
So Ms. Rogers, as you say, the gun discussion, very much part of this right now. You brought up how the president's addressing mental health. We'll focus on one other thing he is addressing first, and I do want to come back to the law enforcement response. The president suggesting arming teachers, giving maybe 20% of gun adept teachers guns. Do you think that is a good idea?
I'll tell you, it horrifies me. If what you're telling me is that we have trained professionals who weren't able to follow protocol, then I can imagine my teachers overworked, underpaid, exhausted, carrying a sidearm, and then being able to perform that protocol. And I want to talk about the white elephant in the room, because what we know is that students of color get suspended and get expelled at a higher rate than white kids. So now what are we going to say, Mr. Trump? We're going to say that now students of color are going to be shot at by teachers at a higher rate? It's absolutely ludicrous.
Governor Rick Scott of Florida, again, that's one of the president's proposals. Governor Rick Scott of Florida put forward some different proposals today, including raising the minimum age you can buy a firearm to 21, banning bump stocks, $450 million for student safety. Is this a good start from your governor?
Yes, it is, and I want my students who are working so hard and never again to really provide real solutions to this problem. I want my students to know that this is a start. Yes, Governor Scott, it's a start, but it's only a start. You know, this is a revolution. My students are generals, and they're gonna carry this through. And it's a start.
Just to circle back to the law enforcement response and the number of missed signals there were in the way for years about this killer. Right up until the end, when I know you may not have heard about the reporting of the Broward County deputies, these 3 new ones who were waiting outside, but the school resource officers who did not go in. Do you feel like the system has served you well in this case?
I think that the system, there's a lot of ways that we need to improve it, and we need to work together. We need to come together. We don't need to be finger pointing. We need to take our money, we need to take our resources, and we just need to come to a solution. And it really beginning with putting that money and resources into mental health.
You went back inside the school.
Wrapping those kids.
You went back inside the school for the first time today.
Yes.
What was that like? I can't imagine what that was like. Tell me about it.
You know, I was really afraid. You know, I told my students, blasted out an email that I was really afraid that I wasn't going to be ready for it, but the county, the school board, they've provided so many resources for us that I really felt like I was wrapped in a blanket of comfort. And I want my students to come back, and I want to share that with them, because we're going to move forward and we're going to heal together. And that's how I feel. I
understand you actually say this is one of the last times you're going to speak to the media, because you want to put 100% of your focus going forward on your students. There's a voluntary orientation for them and parents on Sunday. What's your plan going forward?
Oh, absolutely, I'm going to be there. And I've sent out an email to all my kids, and I said, please come by. I need to see all of you. You need to see me, and our hearts are broken, but we're going to move forward. And you know, Stoneman Douglas is strong, and I hope you see that, and you know that we are going to get through this together. We're reclaiming our school.
Diane Wilk-Rogers, we do appreciate you speaking to us, over the last 9 days up until tonight, and we wish you the best of luck going forward. The students
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, John.